Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about my top 20 favourite films from 1991. These are all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, these are just my top 20 personal favourite films. There's no right or wrong to this. This is just solely my preference and the films I enjoyed the most from this year. So that being said, I'm going to get into a few honourable mentions for me. So first honourable mention is Only the Lonely, starring John Candy and Ali Sheedy. Really sort of underrated comedy, this one, about John Candy trying to get a girlfriend who his mother doesn't really approve of, but it's a really sort of fun, underrated comedy. Next up, honourable mention for me is City Slickers, starring Daniel Stern and Billy Crystal. Young performance in this as well from Jake Gyllenhaal, about a group of friends who try to get away by ending up going to this cattle ranch where Jack Palance is in this as well, who also won Best Supporting Actor. Next honourable mention for me is Soap Dish. Stellar cast of this film, just a sort of really quirky comedy. You've got Robert Downey Jr., Whoopi Goldberg, Sally Field, Terry Hatcher. Carrie Fisher's in there as well. Just a really, really fun oddball comedy. Next honourable mention for me is The Fisher King, Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. Again, another sort of really weird comedy directed by Terry Gilliam. Next honourable mention for me is Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. This was actually recommended to me by a friend from work. I actually really enjoyed this film, but just couldn't get into the top 20 for me. But based on a true story about a horse diver, really, really enjoyable film. Disney film as well, but it's not available on Disney Plus for some reason. It's quite hard to get hold of, but if you can see it, definitely give it a watch and check it out. Next honourable mention for me is the first Hot Shots movie. Really good sort of parody movie, sort of taking on Top Gun, just turning it into this humorous film, a bit like Naked Gun. But I actually prefer the sequel more to the first one. But yeah, the two films are really good. Check them out if you've not seen them. Next honourable mention for me is If Looks Could Kill. This is an American version of the movie. In England, the film was called Teen Agent. Really, really hard to get hold of. It's not a great movie by any means, but I have such nostalgia for this film. It was on TV when I was really, really young, and it's one of those films that you see, but you can't remember the title. And there's not many familiar actors in it as well, but the one actress in it I could recognise was Linda Hunt, who sort of plays the villain's henchwoman, and she has this necklace that turns into this whip. But I recognised her as the principal from Kindergarten Cop, so many, many years later when the internet was easily accessible, I could track down the film that way. But as I said, not a great movie, sort of like a teenage James Bond movie, with all those similar tropes to like the spy genre. They're all in there. But yeah, as I said, not a great movie, but it's worth checking out if you want to kill some time. It's fun. It's not perfect, but I enjoy it for nostalgia. So next honourable mention for me is Samurai Cop. What the fuck can I say about this film? This is Lethal Weapon meets The Room. Buddy cop type of movie, but it is just so bizarrely and strangely made. The production in it is just up the wall horrendous. The editing is baffling. The acting in it is questionable. the shots in it are so ugly and bizarre. The main cop in it has long hair, but they didn't finish filming. And when they brought him back in to film, finish some of the shots, and he'd shave pretty much cut all his hair off, and they put this wig on him. It's so fucking obvious. But it just has to be seen to be believed, this film. It's such a mess, but it's so entertaining. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, because the entertainment factor you get from it is just off the wall. It just falls into that same category as Batman and Robin and The Room. It's the perfect example of so bad it's good. If you love laughing at movies like that, check this one out. It will not disappoint. Next album mention for me is actually a really good, competent film, My Own Private Idaho, with Keanu Reeves, and one of the last performances River Phoenix gave. Just a really good drama, this one. Check it out if you've not seen it. Next honourable mention for me is David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch with Peter Weller. This is like a sort of monster detective film with a bit of body horror to it. Not as good as The Fly for me, but still definitely worth a watch. Check it out if you've not seen it. Next honourable mention for me is The Commitments. Great sort of music band type movie, sort of similar vibes to The Full Monty, but again just couldn't make the list for me. I hear loads of people talking about how great this film is, and it does deserve that praise, but for me, I just don't have that connection with it. I've only ever seen this film once, but I did enjoy it. But again, there's more movies that I like from this year that made the list. So the next honourable mention for me is The Last Boy Scout. Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. Again, just another great buddy cop type movie. Great action film, some great one-liners. Hugely entertaining. Next honourable mention for me is Showdown in Little Tokyo. Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. One of the few films we actually got from Brandon Lee. I think we got about 3 feature films from him before he passed away after making The Crow. Well, during making The Crow. But yeah, this is one of those feature films that is surprisingly really, really short. Just massively entertaining action film. You've got Tia Carrere in there as well, who was an absolute knockout in the early 90s when she did movies like Wayne's World and True Lies. She's in this as well. She's got a nude scene in this, but it's very obviously a stunt double. But yeah, check this one out if you've got like just over an hour to kill. The movie really isn't that long. But yeah, I hugely enjoyed it. My last honourable mention for me from 91 is the second Bill and Ted film, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Some people I know actually prefer this one to the first one. I totally get why. I do still think the first one is the better film. But the sequel isn't something to turn your nose up at. It still has a lot of great fun stuff in there. Again, not a film I have a lot of nostalgia for, not a lot of love for, but I still really do like it. It takes the franchise to strange new places. I do actually have the Blu-ray trilogy coming with third film as well, which I really enjoyed. I just thought it was time to update from DVD with these films, but yeah, Bill and Ted just deliver on so much entertainment. You can't really go wrong with them. So yeah, they're all my honourable mentions, so I'm going to get straight in now at number 20 for me. And that is the first Father of the Bride film. I believe this is a remake. I've not seen the original. So this has got Steve Martin and Diane Keaton in it. Basically, this couple and the daughter's meeting up with them to tell them this big news that she's getting married to a guy she's not really known that long. And that he's coming over to meet them. And the film's pretty much Steve Martin coping with the fact that his daughter's grown up and she's going off to get married and to live her own life, but he can't quite cope with that, and it just leads to just some hilarious stuff. I love the breakdown scene at the supermarket over the hot dog buns. The great scene as well where he goes to visit his future in-laws, and their house is just so much bigger than his, and he's just like sort of blown away by it. Martin Short in this film as well, and BD Wong, just absolutely hilarious as the wedding planners, particularly in the sequel as well. Yeah, just a fun film. Not offensive, just sort of a light-hearted comedy film. Check it out if you've not seen it. Very, very 90s though. But yeah, as I said, check it out if you've not seen it. So coming up at the 19 spot for me is a comedy film called What About Bob, starring Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss. To pretty much sum up this film is, if you've ever been in a group of people and there's just the one person that is so fucking annoying and just will not leave you alone and not go away, this is that film. The film just captures it so brilliantly. Richard Dreyfuss pretty much plays this well-renowned psychiatrist who is sort of gets to meet Bill Murray's character, who he's not really a hypochondriac, but he constantly needs that sort of reassurance from his doctor, and Richard Dreyfuss is kind of like, right, I'm going on holiday now, I'm going on vacation, please don't contact me while I'm there. And obviously he actually ends up getting the bus all the way down to Richard Dreyfuss's vacation home, just to pester him and his family, but everyone sort of really loves him apart from Richard Dreyfuss, and it just leads to just some hilarious stuff. Massively underrated film for this. I've seen it twice. I've seen it, but I saw it quite recently, just a few years ago for the first time. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Yeah, just massively fun film. So coming up next for me at the number 18 spot is Joe Johnston's The Rocketeer. A lot of people have this one as a sort of childhood staple. For me, didn't really grow up watching this film. To me, it started quite a lot of unknowns that I didn't really know when I was a kid looking at the film. But yeah, you've got Billy Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, and Timothy Dalton as the villain, who's just absolutely great. Great sort of superhero film, this. If you've seen Captain America, The First Avenger, you can tell that Joe Johnston used a lot of beats from this film in that one. So it sort of takes place during this, the Nazis sort of taking over, pretty much. Billy Campbell's character ends up discovering this jetpack that he sort of dons and takes on this superhero role as a Rocketeer to try and defeat the Nazis. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Looking back on it now, it's absolutely great. My favorite scene in the movie is probably when Billy Campbell sort of disguised as a waiter and Timothy Dalton's having dinner with Jennifer Connelly's character, and he just sort of finds it difficult to keep face as the waiter, and Timothy Dalton sort of like ends up picking up on it. But yeah, just a great superhero movie, very underrated one, I think. Again, not a perfect film, but a good one. Again, just another film that's sort of harmless fun. So coming up next for me, at the number 17 spot, is a film that is a sort of childhood staple for me, particularly the sequel, and that is the first Addams Family movie. This film feels like it should be a sequel to an already original Addams Family film. It just doesn't set them up well enough for me for this to be strong enough, but there's still a lot of stuff in there in this film that I absolutely love. I love the Addams Family themselves. Raul Julia, who I was a big fan of, great actor. He's got such great chemistry with Morticia Angelica Houston in this film. Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester as well, who has a sort of different persona in the film as Gordon, and that's when he's disguised as Gordon, that absolutely gave me the shits as a kid. It terrified the life out of me. But yeah, it's pretty much focuses on the Addams family and their Gomez's brother Fester, who went missing after they had a massive fallout. Sort of ends up coming back into their lives and how to deal with it, and someone ends up trying to con them out of their home. It's just that sort of fun screwball 90s comedy film that I really loved. I actually prefer the sequel a hell of a lot more. That's the one I watched the most when I was a kid. I'll get into that in another video. But yeah, the first one, still good, still a harmless, fun, charming film. Really, really enjoyable. It's got some creepy bits in there, but for a kids' movie, I think. But yeah, no, still massively entertaining. Coming up next to me is another sort of family film, and that is Steven Spielberg's Hook. What a cast in this film. Dustin Hoffman, who's pretty much unrecognisable. I watch this film, I do not see Dustin Hoffman in the entire run of it. It's just Captain Hook for me. Robin Williams, Julia Roberts, Bob Hoskins, Maggie Smith. The cameos in this film alone. Phil Collins is in there. Gwyneth Paltrow. And probably the one that shocked me the most, I only found this out about 3 years ago. Glenn Close is in this movie. When I found out who it was, my mind was just blown. I told a few people at work about it as well, and they just did not believe me. I had to show them a picture of who she played, and they just were like, no. It's so mind-blowing to have watched a film for pretty much almost 30 years, 25 years in my case, pretty much watching this film, and for an actor to be in it and you just did not recognise them, it's insane. It pretty much follows the Peter Pan story, but later on in life, where Peter sort of, he's left Neverland and he's working in London and has forgotten who he is, pretty much, and he has to come back to Neverland and rediscover his roots. But yeah, it's just a fun family film. The boo box scene, another scene that scared me as a child, absolutely traumatised me, that. And a scene towards the end where one of the main characters dies as well. I won't say who it is, but it made me jump out of my skin when it happened. But yeah, not one of Spielberg's better films. It's just one that's sort of harmless fun. Yeah, just a good, entertaining film. So coming up next for me, at the number 15 spot, is Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. His actual acting follow-up to Dances with Wolves. Again, I enjoy this movie. It's not my favourite Robin Hood film. My favourite one is the animated one by Disney, but this is probably my favourite live-action version. Didn't really get on board with the Russell Crowe, Ridley Scott one. Just far too bland for me, that film. People's probably biggest problem with this is obviously Kevin Costner's accent. Is he even trying an English accent? Who knows? But for me, the main unique selling point of this film is Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham. My God, what a performance. Completely makes the movie. It's just, he kind of outshines every other actor in this film, really. and that's not hard to do with a cast like Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman, and Christian Slater. He absolutely delivers all round. He's worth watching this alone. You got a cameo in there as well at the end by Sean Connery. Michael Wincott in this film as well. He's another actor I really love, really underrated. Played one of the villains in The Three Musketeers, and Top Dollar in the Crow. This is one that was sort of always on TV around about Christmas time growing up. And I love the Bryan Adams theme song. That song just never really seems to get old for me. I know in this country when it came out, it was number one for like 16 weeks, something crazy like that. But yeah, this one is it's a childhood staple for me. This one, looking back on it now, some of the acting by some of the extras are a bit questionable. But yeah, it's still another massively entertaining, fun film that I absolutely love. It's coming up next for me at the number 14 spot is the first of two Oliver Stone films from this year, and that is The Doors. Saw this film a couple of years ago while I was at university, and I absolutely loved it. This is a great musical it's not a musical, but it's a great biopic about the band The Doors. Very sort of similar beats to Bohemian Rhapsody that came out a few years ago about Queen. That would make a great sort of companion piece about The Doors and Bohemian Rhapsody, sort of great biopics about these great influential famous rock bands. You've got Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison, absolutely fantastic frontman. There's not really much more to say about it than that. It's just a great biopic about this great band. Churned out some great songs, and there's just this crazy psychedelic vibe to it. Great performance by Val Kilmer as well. Really, really underrated. Check this one out if you've not seen it. So coming up next for me at the number 13 spot is probably the most underrated film on this list. And that is The Man in the Moon. Really, really good coming of age story. This about this girl who meets this boy where she lives, and at first they don't really sort of get on, but they end up falling in love. It's a great coming of age story set in the 50s. I love those type of 80s movies and 90s movies that were set in the 50s, kind of like Stand By Me. This again has the sort of same vibe to it. For me, I really, really enjoyed it. Reese Witherspoon's first film as well. Just a fantastic drama. Absolutely loved it. Do yourself a favour, check this one out. If you like those types of movies, hugely enjoyable. Next up for me at the number 12 spot is kind of a similar film. That is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. I absolutely love this film. Didn't like it the first time I saw it, but the second time it sort of really sunk in a bit more. Got a great cast in there as well. Kathy Bates, Jessica Tandy. It pretty much follows this housewife played by Kathy Bates, who ends up, she's not really too happy with her life and with her husband, so she sort of ends up meeting Jessica Tandy at this sort of care home for the elderly, and she just constantly gets hooked into her stories that she's got about the people she's met through her life. It's kind of sort of, again, takes place back in the early 20th century. Great settings, great scenery, great sort of production sets as well. Just absolutely fantastic. Again, very similar sort of The Man in the Moon mise en scène style sceneries, and very similar to Stand By Me as well. Yeah, just absolutely loved it. Love the characters, love the story, love the setting. Yeah, check this film out if you've not seen it. I absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. Next for me, at the number 11 spot, is probably again another really underrated film, but that's Jim Jarmusch's Night on Earth. Again, another film I absolutely adored. Probably the most famous actor in this that I could really recognise was Winona Ryder. I absolutely love anything that she's in. The film is an anthology movie. It pretty much follows 5 different taxi fairs that across the world that took place all at the same time, but they're just sort of told in really, really unique settings and unique environments, and the conversations they have really, really hook you. Like, one's in Los Angeles, one's in France, one's in Italy, one's in New York. About these 5 totally different cab drivers and the fares that they have on these nights, and the sort of adventures they have. Yeah, just a really, really good, well-made film. I hadn't seen one like this at all before. It's probably my favourite Jim Jarmusch film. Truth be told. Yeah, just a really, really well done film. Unique as well. Very hard to try and compare it to another film, really. I can't really think of one that was like this, but yeah, check this one out if you've not seen it. So coming up next for me at the number 10 spot is, I believe this was Martin Scorsese's follow-up to Goodfellas, and that is Cape Fear for Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte. Yeah, just what a great suspenseful thriller. It's pretty much about a convict who's trying to seek revenge against the lawyer that lost his case. And how he pretty much just torments this poor guy and goes after his family. Yeah, just absolutely terrifying stuff. Leads to a fantastic climax at the end on this yacht. De Niro just gives this absolutely no holds bar, terrifying performance. Yeah, just a fantastic, scary thriller. Didn't think Scorsese could do that could make this film in this type of genre, because you always sort of associate him with gangster films, but really, really did it with this one. Really, really hit it out of the park. Hugely entertaining. If you like those types of thrillers, but they don't cross over that line into being horror. They're just really, really tense and really suspenseful. This is a masterpiece with regards to that. Yeah, really, really dug this one. So coming up next for me at the number 9 spot is Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. My personal favourite Star Trek film from the original cast, the original run of films. This was the last one to feature all the original cast. A few of them popped up in the next one, which was Star Trek Generations, but that was mainly to really sort of get the ball rolling on the Next Generation cast and their set of movies. But this one for me, just there was something about this film I absolutely dug. I just got into it hook, line and sinker. It pretty much follows this setup where there's a Klingon ambassador who wants to sort of make peace with the Enterprise, and he ends up getting assassinated, but Kirk and Bones sort of take the fall for it and take the blame and are framed for it, but they didn't do it, and they end up getting sent to this sort of alien prison. The supporting cast in this film, fantastic. David Warner and Christopher Plummer as the Klingons, and you've got Kurtwood Smith in there as well. Absolutely just dug the cast in this film, dug the story. Just a fantastic sci-fi film. Avengers Endgame sort of borrowed from the end of this film, where all the cast sort of gave their signatures in the credits. This was sort of like the first film to do that, as it was kind of like a final farewell to the original cast. But yeah, I love all the first 6 Star Trek films, even number 5, which I know is regarded as the worst, but I still do get a lot of joy out of that film. But this is my personal favourite. I know 2 is the best. I do think 2 is the best, but 6 is my personal favourite. It's, again, finding that fine line between best and favourite. But yeah, 6 was a standout for me. If you're not a Star Trek fan, don't bother with this. You're probably not going to change your mind about Star Trek, but if you do like those sort of 70s, 80s and 90s sci-fi movies, check these films out. I had no idea what I was getting into watching them, but I massively enjoyed them. Don't know why I didn't check them out sooner, but yeah, Star Trek 6, my favourite one. It's coming up next for me at the number 8 spot is Ridley Scott's Thelma and Louise. Not a film I loved the first time I saw it. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but again, a film that really sort of grew on me. The more and more I watched it, it just shows the power of love between 2 best friends, and how they just look after each other and have each other's backs. The chemistry between the 2 actresses, Susan Sarandon and Geena Davis, is just on point. I'd say it's probably the greatest on-screen chemistry between 2 female leads in any film. Nothing else really sort of springs to mind. Basically, the film follows these 2 best friends who are sort of repressed by their lives and just want to sort of get away for a weekend, but things just dramatically get out of hand when someone sort of meets them at a bar and sort of starts to behave a bit like an animal and almost ends up raping one of them, but the other one's there to save her, which leads to a murder, and they end up going on the run for the entire film. The premise is just fantastic. I absolutely loved it, and the end, which I won't dare spoil, ends on such a fantastic note. It's one of the best endings in film history. Absolutely loved it. Young performances as well from Brad Pitt in this as well, and Christopher McDonald as well, who sort of plays a jerk in most films he's in. Probably most famous for playing Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. He's in this as well. Gives a great performance. Yeah, I absolutely dug it. These next couple of times I watched it from the first. But yeah, hugely entertaining and satisfying movie. It's coming up next for me at the number 7 spot is Catherine Bigelow's Point Break. Just what a fantastic action movie that sort of came out of nowhere. Keanu Reeves and the late great Patrick Swayze. Pretty much follows Keanu Reeves, who's this FBI agent who has to sort of go undercover to try and find and arrest these bank robbers who call themselves the ex-presidents. There's 4 of them. They all wear these rubber masks of recent presidents from the past. You know, you've got Carter, Nixon, Reagan. I can't remember the 4th one. And they just they just rob these banks in such an entertaining way. They do it really for the thrill and the buzz of doing it. They're also away from the robberies. They're also these surfers, which is what Keanu Reeves sort of has to sort of pretend to be in order to get close to them. Anthony Kiedis is in this film as well, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's great to sort of see him and Flea pop up in different movies. Like I know Flea popped up in a couple of the Back to the Future films as well. But yeah, that's always fun to see them pop up in movies. Gary Busey's in this, and John C. McGinley as well. They have just some great scenes together. Two massively entertaining actors. Yeah, just what a fun filled with adrenaline movie this is. I absolutely dug it. Just a great action film from the 90s, which was a decade that sort of delivered many of these types of films. But yeah, this was one I absolutely massively hugely enjoyed. If you're looking for that sort of entertainment action movie, this is one to definitely check out. Not seen the remake. Hit It was terrible. Don't plan on seeing it. Just watch the original again. Yeah, really good stuff with that one. So coming up next for me at the number 6 spot is a bit more of a serious film, and that's Boys in the Hood. Yeah, just the performances in this film all around, just absolutely fantastic. Terrifying gang movie, this. I think what's so terrifying about it to me is how real it is and how realistic the film just captures the story it wants to tell. It's pretty much about a group of friends growing up in LA, and where they live is just this really dangerous, not gang-ridden, but there are gangs there that just terrify the life out of you, and it's so territorial, and it's just really frightening, really horrific environment to live in. And the film just sort of builds to this. If you want to get out of this situation, you got to work hard, and you got to study, stay in school, and get your scholarship. But even that can't save you from the inevitability of where you live and the way things are. It's so frightening, and the film sort of ends on this note where it's just this never-ending cycle of people just constantly getting revenge on each other. It's just so fantastically captures that. The actors in this, Ice Cube, who obviously went on to do to be part of NWA, and Cuban Gooding Jr., Lawrence Fishburne as well, as Cuba's father, fantastic. The voice of reason in these films. We lose a character in the film, and Cuba Gooding Jr. just loses his shit and just wants to get revenge, and his father's there to just talk sense into him. The best Lawrence Fishburne has ever been, in my opinion. This great, fantastic film. The ending is just so hard hitting, but it needs to be that way. It just has to be that way for me. It's I can't praise the film enough. It's fantastic. Check this one out if you've not seen it. It's so good. So coming up next for me at the number 5 spot is a very underrated Coen Brothers movie, and that is Barton Fink. Set in the early sort of 20th century, this one. It sort of follows a movie screenplay writer played by John Turturro, and he sort of has this sort of writer's block, so he ends up checking himself into this hotel to finish this picture, and John Goodman's renting the room next door, and it just leads to absolute insanity. Not like it's psychedelic or anything like that. it leads to an event happening in the film which results in someone's murder. And the movie just leads you on so many different, not outcomes, but it just takes you on this journey in John Turturro's position because of this murder that happens. We don't know how it happened. We don't know why it happened. We have our speculations. But it's just so engaging and so fantastic. Performances in this, it's probably the best John Goodman's ever been, in my opinion. Absolutely terrifying when we find out the outcome towards the end. It's just so fantastic. You've got all the real sort of Coen Brothers tropes in this as well. The actors they use, John Turturro's in it, as I said. Steve Buscemi's in it as well. Shows up in there. It's hard to talk about this film without actually spoiling it. Pretty much the premise is he's a screenwriter and he wakes up next to a woman he knew. They spend the night together, but the next morning he wakes up in bed next to her and she's dead. And she's been murdered, and we just don't know what's happened. That's the best way to sort of talk about it without saying any more, to not spoil it. Check this one out if you've not seen it. I had seen most of the Coen Brothers films before I saw this one, and this one just sort of shot up the pecking list for me. I only really had to see it once for me to sort of really make my mind up about it. It just really grasped me and affected me, and it was just fantastic. I remember watching this film with my dad, and my dad was like, "Oh, this film's like sort of boring, it's not really going anywhere." And then as soon as that murder happened, he was hooked. He was like, oh, "What is going on?" Really engaged him. Yeah, I dug this one immensely. Yeah, big fan of this one. So coming up next for me, the number 4 spot is pretty much the heart and soul of the Disney Renaissance period. That is Beauty and the Beast. Probably the most perfect Disney film in a way. Everything about this film is just so good. The story is so simple and yet fantastic. The animation's on point. The music's great. The set pieces are great that have been drawn. The characters are wonderful and colourful. The villain is fantastic. Gaston, who's just horrible, despicable, selfish, greedy. Yeah, just all those horrible traits we like to see in a villain. They're there. Yeah, as I said, this film's the heartbeat of the Renaissance period for Disney in the early 90s. Just absolutely fantastic. The live action remake that came out a few years ago, just watched the animated one again. It doesn't really bring anything new in my opinion. The best thing about the live action remake for me is probably Luke Evans as Gaston. He's just having so much fun in the role, you can just tell. Yeah, he was the best thing about that film to me. But yeah, as I said, the animated one, it just has such a great 3-act structure as well. The start of the film where we get scared about the beast, the middle bit where Belle gets to know the beast, and the end where everything sort of comes to a head. It just plays fantastic. The end is so satisfying. The start of the film is just told so well, where it's just told through narration and stained glass windows. It's absolutely fantastic. My girlfriend actually introduced me to this because I'd never seen it before, and it's like one of her favourite films. So we both watched it together, and I absolutely adored it. I thought it was fantastic. yeah, just one of Disney's best. If you've not seen it, do yourself a favour. You'll probably fall instantly in love with it. I massively enjoyed it. First animated film as well to be nominated for Best Picture, which is a good piece of trivia. But I lost out to my next pick, which I'm going to talk about now. So yeah, that's absolutely one of Disney's best, in my opinion. So coming up next for me at the number 3 spot is the film that pretty much swept at the Oscars, and that is The Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, this film won Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor. This film's just is an on-point character study. It's almost like a psychiatrist's fantasy, this film. Pretty much follows Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, who's trying to find this killer called Buffalo Bill, who's sort of a little bit based on Ed Gein, I believe, who sort of murdered women and was like collecting body parts to try and build a suit made of skin. So she uses Hannibal Lecter, played fantastically by Anthony Hopkins, to try and locate and catch this killer. Just leads to some absolutely horrifying stuff. Hannibal Lecter himself is just one of the most terrifying characters, who doesn't do a whole lot in the film, but just his presence alone. You find out a bit about his backstory and his reputation and why he's incarcerated, and Anthony Hopkins just makes all that leap off the screen with doing so little and just terrifying the life out of us. Clarice is warned when she meets him, don't stand too close to the glass, don't hand him things. She's shown a picture of what he did to a nurse that did get too close, which is what he describes as absolutely horrific. So Buffalo Bill has pretty much kidnapped this senator's daughter, so it's a really, really high-profile case. And there's a scene where Hannibal's being transferred, being moved, and he makes the most fantastic escape scene that I've ever seen in a film. I know a few films borrowed from it, really. I mean, if you've seen the movie Leon, you can sort of see where it borrowed a little bit from it in the escape scene. Just a little bit I can see being foreshadowed there and being borrowed. But that's not to take away from that movie. But yeah, this film just delivers on everything in terms of how all-round it is. The end of it is just absolutely satisfying. Buffalo Bill himself is just one of the creepiest movie villains ever. Hannibal Lecter himself, absolutely fantastic performance by Anthony Hopkins, who I believe this is the shortest on-screen appearance of an actor to win Best Actor. I think he's only in the film for like 18 minutes. It's absolutely insane, and to pull that off and to win the award as well, just absolutely fantastic. Jodie Foster in this is just on point as well. I really loved her in The Accused, but I'll probably love her even more in this. Yeah, just an absolutely unsettling film is the best way to describe it, in a very, very good way. But yeah, fully deserved of all the Oscars it won. Absolutely fantastic on-point film. Check it out if you've not seen it. So my number 2 film is the second Oliver Stone film to be released this year, and that is JFK. Man, do I love this film. Okay, to touch on it briefly first, the cast in this film. Where do you start? Sissy Spacek, Kevin Bacon, Tommy Lee Jones, Joe Pesci, Wayne Knight, Michael Rooker, John Candy, Kevin Costner. That's just to name a few, really, in this film. Absolutely fantastic. So this film pretty much begs the question, is there more to what went on with the assassination of JFK? And I think the answer is yes. The film does not answer definitively whether what went on after the assassination, but the film definitely answers there was more to it than what the press were telling us. Just one of the most thought-provoking films I've ever seen. Donald Sutherland in this movie delivers my whole entire favourite scene, where he just lays out all these conspiracies and all these cover-ups to Kevin Costner's character, and it just makes for an absolutely fantastic sequence. Oh my god, Gary Oldman in this as well. Oh, I totally forgot he was in it as Lee Harvey Oswald. Oh my god, what... Again, just everybody in this film sort of is just not out trying to act each other, but everybody just feels so organic in this film, and it's not like, oh, there's that cameo or there's that cameo. No, everybody feels grounded and perfectly cast in the film for as huge a cast as it has. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. This and Dances with Wolves for me are probably my joint favourite Kevin Costner movies, with him in. Followed probably closely by The Untouchables. But I can't praise this film enough. If you want to have your head fried and your brain razzled by the amount of information and conspiracies and just all around great performances in it as well. Just one of my favourite Oliver Stone films. I feel like rewatching this now because there's just so much going on in the film. You can't just watch it once. You have to let things marinate, and you'll watch it again and you'll notice something different that you've never seen before. But again, the film just... everybody fits in it like the perfect jigsaw puzzle. It's just absolutely fantastic. The coverage it makes, the arguments it raises, so fucking good. I just absolutely love this one. Only one film in my opinion that was better than it from this year. But yeah, do yourself a favour, check this one out if you've not seen it. It is a very lengthy film, it's about 3 hours. But you never ever feel that for a second. The movie just goes like that. Yeah, check it out if you've not seen it. Absolutely fantastic. So, that leads me to my number one pick from this year. This movie is a sequel to an already fantastic first film. And that is James Cameron's Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Yeah, this was the Terminator film I watched a hell of a lot when I was growing up as a kid. The shots of LA in this film are absolutely gorgeous. Acting in it is just on point and absolutely fantastic. This is a bold statement to make, but this is probably the best action movie ever made. One of, if not the greatest sequels ever made. I only really count sequels great if the first film's great as well. Because to be a great sequel, you have to match or surpass the original. And if you can do that when the bar's set so high already, then yes, you definitely earn the title great sequel. There's only a few films, in my opinion, that have done that. This is one of them. The second time James Cameron's done it. Making an absolutely fantastic sequel. The first being Aliens. But But yeah, where the first film leaves off, the first film's so fantastically self-contained and can work on its own, doesn't really need a sequel. And again, that's more testament to this film. If a film doesn't need a sequel and you can pull off a great one as well, as great as this one is, more power to it. Absolutely fantastic. We see Schwarzenegger come back as the T-800, but this time the role's been reversed. He's basically our hero that we follow in the film, protecting the now teenage John Connor, who has been born. We see Sarah Connor, who's pretty much been incarcerated into a mental institution because no one really believes her that Judgment Day was something that was going to happen, that she was targeted by Skynet from the future. People just thought she was absolutely insane, and rightly so. You know, if anyone said that, you know, the exact same thing would happen. This film, probably a landmark as well in terms of CGI. The film just gets that right balance of CGI and practical effects. Robert Patrick as the T-800 in this, again, is an actor who does very little in the film, but that's more power to him and makes him more effective as the killer robot. All that pretty much had to be done in CG, which is absolutely fine, but it's kept to a minimum. When it is used, it's so effective and so great. Even by today's standards, it looks better than most films we get, which are chock full of CGI. The practical effects in it are absolutely fantastic. The helicopter chase sequence towards the end of the film, all really, really done. That was like a real helicopter that they flew under a bridge. Just leads to just some absolutely fantastic set pieces. The story to this alone is just, again, fantastic. I sound like a broken record saying that word, but you can't really use any other words to describe it. It's just phenomenal. The soundtrack to it is absolutely great. You got the George Thorogood Bad to the Bone when Schwarzenegger gets his clothes from that biker bar. You got You Could Be Mine by Guns N' Roses in there as well. Which leads to some just great stuff. Not really a bad word I can say about it, really. Eddie Furlong as well, who could have come across as annoying, just doesn't. We actually really like this kid and really root for him. He's a bit of a up to no good at the beginning, but you can kind of understand why. But yeah, I love this film. It's the one I grew up on. I do prefer the original though, just a little bit more. I just find the story to that film to be just a bit stronger and a bit tighter. Although the film is it does have a very dated 80s feel to it. This one hasn't aged a day. The shots of LA are absolutely fantastic. The nightmare sequences that Sarah Connor has are absolutely fantastic and well shot and well made. It's great to see Michael Biehn come back as Kyle Reese in a sort of dream sequence that was really good and really fantastic. Sort of took me out the film the first couple of times I've seen it because I hadn't rewatched the first one that much, so I didn't really know who that character was. But yeah, it makes complete sense now to me. But yeah, I can't really praise this film enough. I've never really met anyone that dislikes this film. Turns up on a lot of people's sort of best films of all time list, and I can completely see why, and can't blame it. Just Arnold Schwarzenegger again in the role he was born to play. The Terminator film stopped for me after this film. Yeah, I think 3 is okay and Salvation is alright, but they just don't live up to this one. I've seen 5 once and I haven't seen 6. But yeah, the first 2 are the the two I watch the most, and just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to leave the video there. I know it's been a long one, and I do apologise for the length, but yeah, they're my top 20 favourite films from 1991. I'm going to hopefully be back soon with my top favourite films from 92. And yes, if you've liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe, and if you feel so inclined to do so. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.